Hi everyone, welcome to Youth Fluent, a new dynamic youth talk show that allows young people to have their say on an enormous variety of issues, including but not limited to health, politics, community, education, and etc., in an aim to inspire change and to raise awareness. I'm your host Anisha Rahman, and today's episode is on the potential ban of celebrity Photoshop. Recently, the British MP and GP, Dr. Luke Evans, drew up a bill that proposed to actually ask social media users and essentially force them into revealing whether they have used Photoshop or not in their pictures or any sort of form of digital alteration. Today I'm here with two guests, Alicia Ahmed Jamin and Amira Hussain, and I will be asking them for their views on this new potential bill, and also asking them, is this bill even needed, and will it be even effective if put into practice in the current climate that we are in, considering our mental health crisis and considering the fact that we as young people are very avid users of social media. So how are you both today?
I'm good.
Hi, I'm
Thank
good, thank you.
That's great. So the first question I want to ask you both is, as celebrities are role models that young people aspire to be, do you think celebrities create unattainable beauty standards? Amira?
I think that it has gotten a little bit out of hand as to what's considered natural or unnatural now, because Photoshop and like platforms like that allow body modifications to be used are a lot more attainable, and people do it a lot more often than you realize. So I think it has gotten a little bit out of hand.
And you, Alicia?
I think that it's become more normalized and trendy to use, Photoshop and anything that can alter your appearance. I think it's like definitely more normalized and seen as acceptable. I think that people don't get criticized as much for Photoshop as they should. So I do think that unattainable beauty standards are set because of that.
Yeah, definitely. So one suggestion for tackling the issues that you guys actually mentioned and described would be this bill in practice. So do you guys actually think it would be effective if it was legislated? Amira?
I think it would be effective, but there's no way of telling that people would actually do it, because a lot of the celebrities might not actually be from the UK as well, that are being told to um, tell people whether they're being using Photoshop. And Photoshop isn't really just used on social media anymore. It's used in like magazines and covers of photos, like newspapers and all this other stuff. So it'd be harder for people to actually tell. The ban might make it easier for people to tell if things are Photoshop, but it wouldn't be like 100% effective.
Oh, that's actually a really good point, actually, about the fact about different countries. Maybe we need to have this thing where internationally, actually, we actually recognize this as an issue and have some sort of different policies in line consecutively with each other. No, you're completely right. What about you, Alicia?
I think that it would be a little bit difficult, and maybe the boundaries have to be very specific because, for example, I know like us and a lot of other young people use like lots of filters, like for example on Snapchat and Instagram, you can use filters that does alter our appearance, but it's so normal, like everyone uses it all the time, and you might even feel that it's more normal to use it than not to use it. So who knows? I think you'd have to be specific about what kinds of Photoshop should be restricted, or at least we should be told about it.
So when you say different types of Photoshop, would you say those that are like Facetune or Photoshop, would that be something that you would consider, something we should maybe put a warning on?
Yeah, exactly. Some things like that. Anything like
apps that like are specifically targeted to alter things rather than just like cover it up and things. Like Snapchat filters is a little bit, but not really.
Yeah, exactly, completely. Would you say actually a social media app like Instagram might? Because I don't know if you've seen, but on the Instagram stories feature, they have these features that can not only just change your eye size, but it can literally essentially cut down your jawbones or really something like that. Make your chin look a lot more smaller. It can even give you much bigger, brighter eyes. It can actually also do some like thinning actually in one of the filters as well. So would you say we need actually regulations on the types of filters that are produced? Because I know with Snapchat, actually, I even use it myself. There are now more filters that really just change the color of your image or make it grainy or, I don't know, make it bluish color. But would you say those Snapchat filters that really or those Instagram filters, the ones that really change your face, I guess, in a very different way, those very different appearances. Would you say we need to regulate that? Like, would we need to make guidelines
Yeah.
now?
I didn't know about the filter that makes you more skinny or changes your eye shapes and stuff,
Yeah,
but I think that that's definitely gone too far, because if people like what they see on their screens but not what they see in real life, will make them more unhappy with themselves. And things like making the picture more grainy isn't really Photoshop, but like actually changing your body,
exactly.
it would make people even more insecure rather than solving the problem.
Exactly. Yeah, completely. And what about you, Alicia?
I agree with Amira. I think that is a bit too extreme. It's really unhelpful for us to see, those filters, like Amira said. If it makes you slimmer, you're gonna, people might question why is that the beauty norm? Why is that the standard? And it's definitely won't have a healthy impact. It'll have a really unhealthy impact on somebody who they're gonna start probably might feel insecure and feel like they're being told to change their body.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely. So with this law, actually, it would sort of force celebrities to label the images that are digitally altered. Do you think celebrities even have a duty to actually tell us if their images have been photoshopped, I guess, to that extreme?
I think they do, because people like Kylie Jenner, they're looked up to by a lot of people who are very easily influenced, and people who are growing up and learning to be comfortable in their own body, and they're seeing things like Kylie Jenner with big lips and other body parts that look ideal. They're going to start feeling insecure about themselves. It would be better if it was told that it's been photoshopped, or if it's not even real in the first place, like for body modifications like surgery and things. It should be more talked about.
Yeah, completely. And what about you, Alicia?
I think so too. I feel that, if celebrities did tell us what they were doing to their bodies, and when we see, things like, for example, Kylie Jenner, she has had her surgeries, and didn't completely open up about it. So I think people would just assume, this is just an example using her, people might assume that was natural, and then they might,
Yes.
start to question, how did she do it, try and do it themselves. That's really dangerous, and she's such a huge influence that I think it probably, we can like 100% say that people have been affected by her specifically and what she's
Yeah,
done.
completely. I don't know if you guys remember, but because she wasn't exactly so open about her lip fillers, for example, and she did used to say it was overlined and drawn on, I guess, with those lip cranes. What we did see was, start some young people actually start going to a very extreme measure to even reach those lips. I remember they started using water bottles, which was really dangerous, sort of like
Stuck on.
stuck in it
Yeah.
and everything. Yeah, which is just, it's really dangerous actually. It's actually leading young people to physically change it because they think they don't have the money to. Those are the extremes that they actually start resorting to. Because, we've talked about how the youth are very impressionable, and now we've even seen that, policy and lawmakers essentially, they're more concerned with the fact that it's creating these standards that we obviously can't reach, and that what it's doing is actually warping those views of beauty. I'm just wondering, with the edited pictures that we see from celebrities, do you think it's actually fueling a mental health crisis? Because this is a view that the MP who actually created the bill, that was his view, that it's actually essentially exacerbating this mental health crisis that we have. Do you guys agree with that view?
Yeah, I think it does. There's loads of more rising cases of body dysmorphia and bulimia and anorexia and all these other health things. And especially on like new platforms like TikTok, food advice and health advice has been dished out a lot more regularly. So you see people talking about their meals for the day and how they're so skinny, and it makes you feel different about yourself.
Yeah, completely. And what about you, Alicia?
I agree. I think that on these platforms, it definitely is fueling a mental health crisis, because the people that we look up to are all on there, and they have such a strong influence, and they seem so perfect because from in between a screen, they're on the other side, you don't know them, and you're just being, all you see is what the positive things that they want to show you about themselves. And we just feel that, I know people who see that, and they just get really strongly influenced, and they would probably modify their behavior, try and be more like that person, and they don't even realize that it's a very unrealistic expectation.
Yeah, And it's really interesting that you both mentioned not just mental health conditions, but we have those sort of different types of eating disorders, and those different conditions that actually make you view your body, I guess, negatively. So I'm just wondering, as young people, do you actually have any ideas that are sort of central in allowing young people to not actually go to those extremes to prevent long-term consequences like those conditions, by any chance? Amira?
Sorry, what was the question?
Oh, I'm just wondering, do you both have any strategies in mind, any suggestions for how we could actually tackle this, essentially making sure that young people don't resort to extreme consequences like this in the first place?
I think if the social media bias against certain body parts was removed, it would help a lot. Like being overweight is considered very bad. So if that kind of bias and negative idea around the whole weight thing went away, it would help a lot of people mentally. And promoting things like healthy food, or promoting healthy things rather than body modifications and all these unhealthy lip trends and all that stuff could also help get rid of it.
Yeah. What about you, Alicia?
I think body modification should be, like, if not banned or restricted, just controlled and not shown to people who are younger and more vulnerable. And also, I just think that we all have to show more support for each other and not criticize people about their bodies, because that's what will like trigger someone to become insecure and worried when they, if someone makes a comment about like, body weight, they're going to start to really, really, that could trigger like a eating disorder, body dysmorphia, things like that. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, and actually, I was really interested in the fact that, Amira, you mentioned TikTok, because as a techie-based person, actually, they actually create this algorithm, actually, and what they do is they don't exactly feature on their For You page any videos that actually have any people with blemishes on their faces, or people who are overweight, or essentially anyone who they think doesn't fit their ideal, perfect beauty standard, if there is even any. So I'm just interested to think, do you think that actually creates, issues for young people, and how, by not showcasing all the different types of young people, do you think that exposure that we're seeing, essentially the perfect people in their opinion, really, do you think that actually creates even more long-term consequences now? Because, there's a lot of focus on Instagram and Snapchat, but TikTok is the new thing, actually. So yeah, that'd be really
Yeah, I
interesting.
think it definitely is, because if your TikTok is being used a lot more than like Instagram, Snapchat now, so people are constantly seeing videos of the same type of thing, like clear skin, ideal body. It kind of puts this idea in your head that, oh wait, maybe I'm not normal. If you're not seeing things, a bigger variety of body, like bigger variety of people even, then it's going to put this kind of idea in your head that maybe you're the abnormality. That could also cause issues.
Yeah, completely. And what about you, Alicia?
I think when you spend too much time on TikTok, because I know it's really addictive. So if you're on TikTok and, like you said, there's an algorithm, you see all of that. People who are your ideal TikToker, they're all quite similar. The top influencers, they're all quite similar. Those features, those perfect features. And if you see that too much, I think it really can have a bad impact on your mental health without even realizing it, because you kind of forget that it's not real, and it's real for them, but you kind of forget that is not a society, it's not an expectation. No one expects you to be like that, but I think it can be toxic to yourself when you see that, and you might compare yourself as well.
I'm just wondering as well, both personally as well, because I'm sure, like every other young person, you scroll through different social media platforms. I do the same thing, go through different, so Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, all of those things. How do you both actually personally feel when you're presented with these super heavily edited pictures, really?
I think Grace is very...
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Go first.
I think creates this very fake idea in people's heads and makes them think a few things that they really shouldn't be thinking, because everything that everybody's born with is all completely natural, and getting told that, oh, this isn't natural is going to put ideas in people's heads. And especially like this, our generation, very influential. So we could obviously easily like believe what other people are saying about us, because it's a lot easier for people to say stuff about other people's bodies as well, because of online, you just type a message and that's it. It's been sent. So it's it's a lot easier for there to be mental health disorders now.
Yeah. And thinking about another view, because there is this also argument saying that by restricting people from, I guess, using those filters or using those, I guess, those extreme Photoshop, that we're also, you know, because they're insecure about those their flaws, why can't they exactly change it? What are your thoughts on that? You know, how would you respond to someone who exactly says that? I guess an argument to counteract yours. Amira?
Oh, I think that that's actually a valid point because people are insecure about the things and they might choose to hide it. Like there are filters that hide your spots and stuff like that. But I think when it becomes more like filters and things, I think they're more acceptable because they just kind of cover a few small things on your your
Yeah.
face. But if people are insecure about body parts and they choose to use like actual Photoshop apps to change how they look and things, then it should be said in the photo, like, oh, by the way, Photoshop was used in this photo, because then people are going to see that, oh, this person's insecure about this. Maybe I should be insecure about it.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. What about you, Alicia?
I think that there should just be some boundaries because it's kind of similar. It reminds me of like, you know, the argument about makeup. Some people, you know, they speak
Yeah.
about women and even men possibly, you know, the use of makeup. They'll say, you know, there's an argument that wearing makeup is it should be very acceptable because people, if they want to, you know, hide their insecurities or just change their appearance a little bit and it makes women feel better, more comfortable, then it should be allowed. And there are
Yeah.
people who believe that makeup is a negative thing and that it's changing, it's actually negative because, you know, it or women are doing it to change themselves. So I think with filters, it maybe there should just be like a boundary because some are
Yeah.
extreme and some are quite subtle. Like some just pretty much add makeup, like, you know, they have the effect of like, you know, but foundation, mascara, lipstick, like that's things we can apply ourselves as well. But when it comes to things that, like, for example, change your lips and make them a lot bigger, that's definitely
Yeah.
gonna have the same effect as like seeing an advert basically to get lip fillers. Basically it's the same, it's really similar.
Yeah, I'm actually interested as well, Alicia, because you just mentioned actually measuring how extreme those filters are exactly, you know, seeing the, I guess, distinguishing between those more subtle ones and then actually those much more extreme ones that pretty much change how you, I guess, look like, I guess, with your nose or your lips or something like that, or your eye size and jawbones. I'm just wondering, how can we actually do that as well?
I'm not really sure. It seems hard to measure because everyone's going to have a different opinion. Some people might think that, you know, for example, let's say eyebrows, if you know, your eyebrows are just modified, some people might think, well, it's just your eyebrows, it's not doing much. And some people might think that's a very like solid feature of your face, and changing it
Yeah.
is, it's not fair, like that you can just change it so easily and not tell anybody that you've photoshopped it or whatever. So I think I think that it just depends on people's opinions.
Yeah. No,
So
completely. Yeah. And it's really interesting as well, like, because you were saying it feels like an advert essentially.
yeah,
So I was just
exactly.
wondering, yeah, if you could like explore on that, because
So
I actually think that really fits. I think it does feel like an advert sometimes when you see those extreme change in filters. It does feel like, oh, you know what? I look better this way. Maybe I should just, you
exactly,
know,
I feel
that's I
like
think the issue.
it's a really slow like mental process. Like I don't think it's one time trying a filter and then straight away you're convinced you need to change yourself. I think it's over gradually. The more and more like we're exposed to those kind of things, the more we don't even realize it, but you set a like a norm for yourself, as like a social a standard. It's just in your head, and then you see, and then, you know, your idea of beauty is constantly changing depending on what we're influenced by. So with the like filters and changing and it changing how we look, maybe if it's like related to surgery, then you then you can like restrict it. Maybe that can
Yeah.
like point us towards what's worse and what isn't, because like lip fillers, like you said, you know, like slimming, filters that make you look slimmer, change your jawline, shape of your face, those kind of things that we can't just. It's not like makeup, you know, you don't do that
Exactly,
at home. It's
yeah.
like a surgery. But whereas like the filters that just, you know, adds a little bit of things that I like, makeup, I think that's acceptable pretty much.
Yeah. And what about you, Amira? Actually, you can add on to what Alicia said as well, because that was perfect.
Yeah, I think that small body mods like changing the amount of hair in your face and things is more natural because it's more done, I guess.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, like she said, it's everyone's opinion. It's going to be something hard that you can just everyone to agree on. It's going to take a lot of while for everyone to just agree on like what is going to be accepted and what's not going to be accepted because it's become
Yeah.
a lot more normal now.
Yeah. So do you think that maybe we need to make like an independent regulation body or something like that? Actually have people part of that process, maybe judging and deciding those filters rather than just giving it all the power to the government, really, I guess.
Yeah, because the government have power, of course, but it's actually about the people. So if the people are in control about what they choose, then it would be a lot more realistic as well. And the idea of beauty changes as well because you can't change
Mm.
laws like that. The idea of beauty changes a lot quickly because just like a couple of years ago, having big lips wasn't the norm, and then suddenly
Yeah.
became a big thing, and then now it's in every filter. So if it's the government, then changing things like that is going to be too hard. But if it's like a corporation maybe or like a system in place to make sure the right message is being across, it would be a lot better.
Yeah, no, that's actually, no, I actually completely agree with you there. That actually makes a lot more sense, especially as even you were saying it does evolve, really. It's not always the
Mm.
same thing, I guess, on and on. I guess my next question to you as well, guys, is because you guys were, I remember Amira actually mentioned this before. It was about magazines and everything, that sort of print media. Do you think that still applies to us? Should we still consider thinking about those, I guess, applying
Yeah, I
regulations
think
to that?
yeah, there definitely should be regulations about Photoshop and magazines because magazines are supposed to depict beauty. Like Instagram, there's a lot more natural stuff going on, and there's actually movements online now about um, removing Photoshop and being more natural. But magazines are supposed their main purpose is to show people what beauty or that kind of standard is supposed to look like. And if it's the complete opposite of what's actually natural, then it's going to put ideas in people's heads.
Yeah.
And
I
if it's not
actually
natural,
remember,
it's not
yeah.
really attainable.
Yeah, completely. I actually remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but Zendaya, and I remember she's obviously a very big actress, and at the time I think she was our age, 16 or 17, and she was photoshopped on this magazine cover with much smaller thighs and a much more smaller waist. And I remember she actually called out that magazine saying, what you're doing is creating this culture for young people that it's not okay to look the way I do. You're making me feel
Mm.
more uncomfortable as a person as well. So, that is really interesting, actually, what you pointed out there. And what about you, Alicia? Do you think it still applies as well? We have to still think about
I think
magazines?
it definitely still applies. I think probably it applies even more than, you know, on social media because I just feel that most, if not all magazines, that include, you know, pictures of people, that they do Photoshop it. They try and make it look perfect because they're trying to sell something to you. So they want you to like really absorb that artificial image, and it's still just as uncomfortable and has just as big an impact on us as if we saw it online, because I personally don't really look at magazines that often, but if it was somebody who did see magazines, like that was their
Yeah,
main like source of seeing those kind of images, then it would really impact them just the same.
yeah. And actually, I'm also worried about accessibility because apps like, I think before there was a thing where if you were an expert in Photoshop, that's how you can Photoshop, using the actual Photoshop tool itself. Now there's apps like Facetune or those type of similar apps where you can literally just do it from the whiz of your smartphone, and it doesn't even take
Yeah.
too much learning and effort. You could just resize it right there. Do you think that's actually an issue? Do you think we need to maybe restrict, I guess, the ages of young people who, I guess, use that, something like that, really? What do you both think?
Yeah.
Amira?
I think you're right. It has been so much more easier to change how you look. All you have to do is click a few buttons and then that's it. Where it used to be like actually doing the whole thing. But now it's become so much more easier to change how you look. It's gonna happen more as well. You don't even realize when it could be happening.
Yeah, completely. And what about you, Alicia?
I feel like that's a really good idea, that Photoshop apps like that are, you know, for altering like your body specifically. I think they could, if that was restricted, that would really help a lot, because then you won't have, it makes it less accessible, and people would realize that it is wrong to, you know, do Photoshop on people's body without their consent, or
Yeah.
just in general, it's not really a healthy trend. So
Exactly, yeah. In fact, there was this one time, you know, Blake Lively, the star of Gossip Girl. I don't know if you guys
yeah, I
remember
know.
that. Yeah, yeah. So I remember there was a time she actually interviewed Gigi Hadid. You know, and she's a big model and everything, and she was like,
Yeah.
celebrities use Photoshop, like actual Photoshop, 99.9% of all the time. And I remember people were like, well, you know, that highlights a real need for regulations and laws actually trying to protect young people from, I guess, seeing this content. Do you agree with that view? I guess that celebrity Photoshop is that common. Like, is there
It
a
is.
real need? Yeah.
There is a real need because celebrities are the one people you can guarantee people actually look up to. Like you look up to your friends and here and there, but celebrities are actually looked up to. And if what if you're looking up to is unrealistic and fake, then it's not a good place to be mentally if you're gonna be looking up to things that are not real.
Yeah. I think that's all I have for you guys today. So thank you so much for actually speaking about your views and your opinions. Honestly, so important. And you guys have actually raised awareness about the issue to so many young people today. So thank you guys. I guess just to end off, I just want to explain to everyone that, you know, young people's mental health is a very serious public health concern. And, you know, regulating, you know, celebrity Photoshop is just one way we can actually tackle this issue, because it is a real issue at hand. And we actually need to think about, is it right that young people are able to actually very easily change their features through apps like Facetune and stuff like that? And is it right that we have these extreme filters that actually can change the shape, size, or features of your face? Should we still allow those type of filters to even exist, really? So, yeah, so I just want to end off with, as if, you know, if you do enjoy episodes like this, do tune in to YouFluent every Wednesday at 6 p.m. There will be an episode every week. And please do feed in your suggestions through Instagram, Facebook Live, etc. Because, you know, I do value opinions so much, and I would like to actually make sure that I cover topics that you guys are feeding into me. So, yeah, thank you.